playing these sort of video tutorials, is that there's a thing here, little button called a Q What's This. Now if you click on this Q What's This, your mouse will turn into, at least on my display, something looking like a question mark. You can then move your mouse over one of these display nodes, and if you then left click and release, then the online information that's available to help you work with these nodes will then pop up, and you can read in glorious detail all the various ways that you can work with these particular nodes. In our particular case, both the main nodes, the color bars themselves, the color bars are interactive in our particular, in the MeqTree's visualization system. And also the spin boxes themselves all have Q What's This associated with them, which you can go and retrieve and look at by clicking on the question mark here. What are some of the simple things that we can do with this system? Well, first of all, there's a very nice little feature that Oleg has made here, which allows us to, in cases where we want to actually get a larger picture of this particular visualization node on the screen. Right now it's jammed into this sort of packed set of bookmarks, and in reality maybe we want to actually get a more detailed look at the individual visualization node. We can actually click on this little icon here, and we've actually floated this particular window free of the screen, and that allows you to expand this particular node so we can more detailed look at this. One of the things that we can do once we're in here is that you'll notice, first of all, that there's always this little readout showing us the values of the individual cells that we're looking at on the screen as we move our mouse around. We can also left click on one of these cells, and then we get a little pop-up window also giving us the value of these cells where we've done the left click. Now one thing we can do is that's interesting is actually we can, if we press down with the left mouse button and then start dragging, this is actually going to perform a zoom operation. We can zoom in on an area of the node. Now in our particular case, of course, we only have 6 cells, so this is not particularly enthralling. But in other cases, this might be where we have maybe hundreds or thousands of points, which are very hard to read look at on one of these small little GUIs. Zooming in can be quite effective. Now before we go further, once we've got our node floating free of the screen, we probably eventually want it to get put back into its cell in the browser. We do that by clicking on the close window icon here. But if for some reason we actually want to get rid of this particular node being displayed, and you click on the lower X, that's going to essentially close this panel, and this display will vaporize. Now what we just want to do now is put him back in where he came from. That's back in there. Now a neat little trick we have is that once we've zoomed in on one node, we can actually left click on this particular node, and maybe we want to look at the corresponding area in the add node, and if I left drag, click, and then drag over and drop into that node, we actually have this node and that node now zoomed in onto the corresponding areas. Once you've zoomed in, you may want to unzoom, and the way you unzoom is that what you do is you now right click on the node you want to work with, and then you get a little context menu appearing which has many different options, some of which we're going to come back to in other tutorials. Right now what I want to do is reset the zoomer. That sets my node back to its original state so that we're seeing all the subcells, and we can do the same thing with here. Another thing we can do then, once our color bars are dynamic or we can interact with them, say for example, normally the color bars show 256 ranges of color by default from the minimum value of the node, which is in our case here 0.25, up to the maximum value of 2.75. But say we want to actually get a more detailed examination of the range of node cell values between, say, a maximum value of 1 down to the minimum value associated with the node. If you left-click and drag your mouse button over the range of a signal that you want to get displayed, say from now, in our case, from 1 down to the minimum value, which is about 0.25 in our case, and then release, actually now our range between 1 and 0.25, we have a sub-range of 256 colors which are available to us. This isn't terribly exciting here since we only have 6 nodes, and so we're really using 6 out of the 256 colors. But in other cases, as we'll come to later, the ability to be able to subdivide is, of course, something which is very useful. Of course, any node, any cell whose value is now greater than 1 is, of course, now just displayed in red. You set yourself back to the default range of colors by right-clicking on the color bar node and clicking on the unzoom intensity scale. Similarly with single one-dimensional nodes, we can, if we want to, you get the readout down here of what the values are, but if you left-click in one of these one-dimensional displays, it will give you again a little pop-up window giving you the actual value of the nearest data point in your system. So that's another thing I might mention before we stop is that if I right-click in this window, one of the things that you probably want to do quite a lot of the time is you can either print a plot, which let's click on that. What it'll do is produce a standard two-digit printer window, which I've got default set up. You'll get a default file that you'll print to in PostScript form, and then if I click on OK, it'll print out in the directory where we're working at something called imageplot.postscript, or you can print to a particular printer. I'm not going to bother to do that right now, but that's available. Or the other thing you can do, for example, is there's an option to display the current display that you're working with in portable network graphics or PNG format. And so those are ways you can get hard copy or displays of these nodes for some further offline analysis. And I think we'll stop at this particular point.